Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Blissed? Dr. Shealy, are you blissed? I'll bet you are.
You know, it's much better than the other way around, isn't it?
You bet. And class, I'd just like to report that you are listening to Sonny Skidmore's favorite radio broadcast classroom. Sonny Skidmore just loves listening to Dr. Shealy, and I know that this afternoon when we go into rebroadcast on KLID, AM 1340, Poplar Bluff, Missouri, she will be in her truck listening to Dr. Norman Shealy right here on her radio station, KLID. And thank you to all of our affiliates who broadcast and rebroadcast USA Prepares. Dr. Shealy, I've got some sad news. Another one of our instructors passed away yesterday.
Wow.
Major George Wheelock, and you and I talked about him. He had cancer. He had some tumors. He had a couple tumors removed on his neck. He had two more, and they were considered not operable, and they felt if they gave him any more radiation treatments, he would succumb to them. And yesterday I got a call in the afternoon from actually two of our other instructors who notified us that he did pass away yesterday afternoon around a little after 1 o'clock. And he was in hospice, and I'll tell you what, Dr. Shealy, very, very sad. 53 years old.
Wow.
Cancer of the neck. U.S. Army Infantry. And he was a good man. He helped us with our Get Prepared Expo. He assumed the position of Chief Operations Officer in my stead while I was doing other things at the expo at the same time. Really, really good guy, and he's sorely missed. Dr. Shealy, I was talking to another man about the same age, U.S. Army, cancer of the neck also, and now that's two people I know, cancer of the neck, and I don't remember hearing about cancer of the neck very often in the past.
It used to not be that common.
Yeah. What's going on? Is it what we're eating?
Well, number one, I have to start with any of the smokers, because in the old days, at least, it was the people who got cancer of the neck were smokers.
Right. I don't think either of these two gentlemen were smokers, but they were both in the U.S. Army.
Oh, well, they've been
both
exposed
of them were
to all kinds of poison then.
Yeah.
And if I might say so, I would think more psychic poison than anything.
Oh, yeah. They say that in boot camp they break these young men down into a puddle of mush, and then they form them into, killing machines and make them do things that they would not ordinarily do.
Well,
following orders.
I lost total belief, faith, etc. in the United States government in 1966 with the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first time that I unequivocally thought, this is evil. We have no right to be doing this. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen our government go out of the country since then on anything that was ethical.
I asked General Vallely, he was on the broadcast with us, he's a USA Prepares instructor, and I asked him on the air, so what was the Vietnam War all about? I was of draft age, my draft number was above 200. I was not interested in going to fight old men's wars for profit. If we were attacked, that's different. If it were like December 7th, 1941, where we're attacked by a foreign country unprovoked, that's something different. I would certainly rally to the defense of our country. However, to go beat up little countries around the world and steal whatever wealth they may have, I'm not interested in doing it. Well, I remember being in college at the university level in the 1970s, and there were the reserve officer candidates, ROTC candidates, and they were separated from us because those of us who were against the war, on one side, and then we had the military trainees on the other side, and we couldn't understand why they would want to go to war and beat up other countries. We couldn't understand it, and they couldn't explain it either. And General Vallely could not explain to my satisfaction what Vietnam was all about, other than the fact that it would be war for profit. Other than that, I don't know any reason why we went to Vietnam.
Well, can you name any reason why we have sent troops on the ground anywhere in the world since World War II that was ethical, legal, responsible?
No, and I can say no, and I can also say this: before we had the Pentagon, we never lost a war. Since we've had the Pentagon, we've never won one.
That's interesting. I didn't remember when the Pentagon came about.
Yep, it's true.
Now, did you see the latest Gallup poll? Federal government is rated by American people in a nationwide poll as worse than any other known business on the world.
Well, I absolutely agree with that.
Oh,
I agree with that. And most other known businesses don't have armies to enforce your consumption. For example, the Abomination and his twisted vision of health. What would you say it? Health extortion.
Well,
I don't know. Sears doesn't threaten me that if I don't purchase a washing machine from them, they're going to fine me. They don't do that.
But then you're talking common sense again, and it is my father. I can remember my father over 70 years ago saying common sense is the uncommon commodity.
I was in the dentist chair yesterday. One of our senior instructors is a dentist, and we were talking about some of the latest things that I've done. For example, I challenged our property taxes, our real estate property taxes, and so I haven't made the announcement, but I'll make it right now. So I got this letter from the county, and they said, great news, your assessment has gone up, your taxes are going up. Here's the 2016 amount. Here's the 2017 amount. And I looked at it and talked to Mrs. Finelli, and she said, yeah, it's going up $480 in assessment, which is a small amount in the assessment. However, what I did was I said, I'm going to challenge this, and I'm going to spend the afternoon there. And so I set up the appointment.
I love you.
And I went to the county, and I met with the tax assessor. Now, she holds an elected position. So she said, just as I was walking in, she said, oh, well, he's here. And I guess they thought I wasn't going to show up. I was there at the exact appointed time. I mean, within a couple seconds. I was a couple seconds early. And so I got to the counter, and she starts bringing her material over to discuss it with me across the counter. Now, the counter is, elbow high.
Right.
And so I said, you have a place where we can sit down? This is going to take a while. so
hey, Ben. Oh, dear.
So she looked at me like, really? I'm pretty busy. And it's like, yeah, but, this is my appointment kind of thing. That wasn't really said, but it's like she thought that it was going to take maybe a couple minutes. So we sat down in her office, probably getting on, I guess, a couple hours. And so I said, this is a wonderful experience. I'll be talking about this at the dinner table, and I'll be sharing this learning experience with our family. And I'm just here to understand how this works. So now here's how it works. Your property, our property has several tracts of land, if you will. And the land in Missouri, in our county, is graded with numbers. And the lower the number, the better the land. So if you have what's called bottom land that you could grow crops on, it doesn't have too many rocks in it, excellent fertility, that'd be like the best quality land. And then a vertical cliff, would be like the worst because you couldn't grow much on that.
Yeah.
So the land is separated, and so I'm looking at the map of a couple hundred acres, and I'm asking about this section. I mean, and when I talk about section, I'm talking about maybe a couple acres here, a couple acres there. I'm looking at acre by acre of a couple hundred acres to determine exactly how this land has been categorized. And so we went through all of it, and then we went through all the buildings, the condition of the buildings, the amount of completeness of the buildings, the quality of the buildings, the cost of the buildings, how much it cost me to build the buildings versus how much it would have cost somebody else. And whether I used materials, which I did, and how I did it, and on and on and on and on and on. It was an education for everybody, right? Bottom line, our real estate assessment is lower than it was. So what does that mean, class? It means that...
Good on you, mate.
Well, I've done 2 out of 2, and we're batting 2 out of 2. We won both of them, one in Virginia and one here. So all you have to do, is be polite, ask lots of questions, and ask the questions to back them into a corner where they have to say, I think you're right. We're going to make that change. And yep, you're right. We're going to make that change. And what happens? See, they don't tell you exactly how your assessment is comprised. They don't tell you all the numbers that add up into that final annual assessment. They don't tell you that. But there's hundreds of numbers, maybe easily, in our case, that make it up. And I wanted to look at every single number. And we did. And so with the taxes, the assessment went down based on things that I found that were wrong. And here's what it means. It means that from now on, our taxes will be lower forever. And if we sell the property to somebody else, which we do not intend to do, that person will benefit. So all you have to do is get that appointment. So the minute you get your tax assessment, call them up. Send them a fax. Send them a letter saying you're looking forward to spending a couple hours with them. And then ask lots of questions. And you can look up on the internet how to do it. Maybe we'll even talk about some of that on Friday with Marty Barrett. Exactly some of the details that went into doing that. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, and we will be right back with medical questions just in a couple minutes. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, medical doctor, PhD times 3, Native American medicine man, surgeon of the year, author of over 30 books, and broadcaster of over 2 decades. Dr. Shealy, how is Dr. Shealy?
He is fabulous.
That is wonderful. Dr. Shealy, do you have an update that you'd like to share with us about scalar energy? Has anything transpired that we need an update on? Well,
we are expecting our... by the way, Vince, I have never thanked you, I think even personally, but on air, for introducing Lou Cassidy to me. That has been...
Yeah, Lou Cassidy's he's great.
For those who don't know, several years ago at the expo in Lebanon, this man came up to me, and I'd never met him before, but he said that sent him to show me this thing. He'd brought his iteration, if you will, his production of something called pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. Now, I'd already been playing with, and for several years, using commercial units. I liked what he did, and I made some suggestions about changing the frequency so we could use it as frequency modulation, if you will, of each of the chakras, which he did. And we now have the Shealy Soren Chakra Sweep, PEMF, which in my opinion is better than, it retails for $840. It's 10 times better than an $18,000 device. I mean, it's fabulous. And Lou has been working with us on other things, but actually by roughly this time next month, we will have a new scalar device that is not only scalar, but amplified with crushed sapphire crystal, one of my favorites. And we will be testing that. Chief Cloud Pilot has agreed to use live cell microscopy to evaluate the effects. Actually, when we were doing the adrenomedullin study, on 3 occasions he took blood, a drop of blood, put it on a microscope, and this is something I actually personally worked with 20 years ago. And you can make a lot of diagnoses, but the main thing is you can see sickness or abnormalities in the live blood. And on 3 occasions, he put a slide for 20 minutes in the scalar room, and within 20 minutes, it markedly improved. So this time, we're going to test the blood of 10 people and put several slides. One we're going to put on the Rejuva matrix, the one that regenerates telomeres. Another we're going to put right up next to the scalar. Another one we're going to put, half a room away from the scalar equipment itself. And then another one nowhere near any of the equipment. So we'll have 4 different ways of comparing the effects of healing. Now, we're also going to check free radical production because theoretically, scalar should reduce free radicals also, but that will take more than 20 minutes. That probably will take a day at least. But, so, yes, I'm excited about scalar. Thank you.
Yeah, so when you talk about reducing free radicals, you're talking about treating cancer, isn't that correct? Or preventing cancer?
Every known illness is associated with excess free radicals, yes.
Wow. This is absolutely fabulous, and that's going to happen in Springfield at your clinic, right? Springfield, Missouri.
That is going to happen right here in good old central USA, Springfield, Mo.
And is Dr. Sergey Sorin going to be working with you on this as well?
Yes.
Fabulous. And you're talking about Chief Cloud Piler of the Nemenha,
exactly.
And I am Nemenha as well as Dr. Norman Shealy. Your position in Nemenha, Dr. Shealy, would you share that with our broadcast classroom, please?
Well, I'm the
you're chief medicine man, right?
Of the Society of Sacred Vibration. And so basically, I joined the Nemenha because philosophically, my spiritual roots are exactly the same as the Native American Indian philosophy that goes back centuries. In other words, to me, nature itself is sacred. And everything,
no question in my mind.
Everything created is part of the sacred. And therefore we respect it in that way. And, of course, everything is also vibration. Even things like a rock have in them the atoms. And in those atoms, things are actually...
Norm Shealy is with us, class. Dr. Norman Shealy, medical doctor. And if you'd like to go to his website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com, normshealy.com. You can sign up for the same free newsletter that we get right here at the farm. Just go to normshealy.com, and it'll ask you for your email address, and it's just used to get the email newsletter to you. And I think it's absolutely worth reading. It takes maybe a minute, maybe 2, and it will provoke some thoughts that will help you become even more healthy. Dr. Shealy, medical miracles. Can you share with us maybe some medical miracles or darn close to medical miracles that you've seen in your life that you think are worth
well, in many respects,
spreading the word on?
I've seen a number of them, but I didn't think of them as miracles until 1974. I had a woman who came in literally moribund almost with metastatic cancer breast, and on the 17th day of working with her, this woman who was brought into the room on a stretcher got up and walked out free of pain. 3 months later, her cancer was gone, never to return. I mean, that's a miracle. She had failed already radiation and chemotherapy. Or even similar, one of the last major operations that I did back in the early 70s, a man came in coma, totally out of it, unresponsive in every way. He had ruptured an aneurysm, a blowout in the brain, in the right temporal lobe. Well, I operated on him. I took out the blood clot. I clipped the aneurysm, and when I walked on the ward to visit him the next morning, he was walking down the hall. I mean, those things do happen.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Shealy, what do you attribute those dramatic turnarounds to?
Well, now in his case, of course, it was a physical, intervention that just happened to be good enough that we left him with no damage. In her case, a year and a half later, when I was invited to speak at the hospital in Los Angeles where she had been unsuccessfully treated with chemotherapy and radiation, she picks me up at the airport. We're driving down the highway, and she says, "Norm, I want to tell you what happened last year. In that exercise you did, it was one on forgiveness. I suddenly realized how much I hated my family and decided I'm going to let the bastards kill me." She got well, and her husband committed suicide.
Wow.
I mean, it often the miracles occur when there is a major personal psychological insight.
So are we saying that it is not easy to be healthy when a person is angry?
I personally believe, conservative, the primary cause of 80% of all illness is anger, guilt, anxiety, and depression.
Mm-hmm. I'm reading, Dr. Shealy, I'm reading more and more and more stories. It's like daily, and I'm not exaggerating, about a husband who kills his child or his children and his wife and then himself, or a husband who kills his family and not himself, or a wife who kills her husband, or a mother who kills her children and her husband. And it's just, I'm reading this every day, and I'm thinking, wow, how do we get to this point?
Well, it's unfinished anger, guilt, anxiety, and depression, inevitably, in my opinion. And I mean, I have to say, you cannot afford the luxury. I mean, it is a pampered luxury to wallow in manure. And anger, guilt, anxiety, depression are ultimately uncomposted manure.
And Dr. Shealy, whether we like it or not, these people could be our neighbors. These people could be the family next door that we think everything's okay. Maybe we don't hear the yelling, the screaming, and the fighting, and the domestic arguments. Maybe everything appears to be just happy. And next thing you know, there's a murder, suicide, and the family's wiped out, or there's a standoff with the police, and it's suicide by police. It's so sad.
Vince, I am sorry that people can't get their act together better, but, I was married for 52 years, and my wife and I never had an argument. When I say an argument, yes, we sometimes didn't agree on things, but we never shouted at one another. We never were angry at one another. If one of us was unhappy about what the other wanted to do, we would sit down and have a conversation. And that was it. We settled it peacefully.
We've been married for 38 years, Dr. Shealy, and I can say the same thing. But there are reasons why that situation is like that, why we don't have arguments, and why we don't yell and scream as maybe you might see on television or the movies, or you might even hear about with other families, and you might even hear of people calling 911 or their children calling 911 on mommy and daddy because they're yelling at each other. And well, we don't do that. We don't yell. We don't scream. We don't have arguments. Just as you mentioned, you didn't. And the reason for that, yes, we discuss everything, but there are no surprises either. For example, I wouldn't dream of going to the new car dealer or used car dealer or even driving by and saying, wow, that's really great. My wife would love that. And then coming home with that shiny new whatever it might be. We'll call it a Corvette. We might call it I don't know, whatever it might be. I wouldn't dream of it. I wouldn't dream of even buying a quart of paint that would be used on our house without checking with Mrs. Finelli. Not that I need her opinion, not that she needs my opinion, but it's the polite, and it's the kind, and it's the right thing to do in this marriage partnership that we have. So, for example...
True love. I mean, love is wanting to help do good to the other person.
And when when we built this house that we're living in, you've been here, Dr. Shealy, I said to Mrs. Finelli, this one's yours. Whatever you want to do is fine with me. And I said, I've made all the previous mistakes, so this one, we're going to do whatever you want to do. And however you want to do it is fine with me. It's your turn. And it's not like the other ones were completely, my doing. Everything we've done has been discussed and agreed upon. But I thought that she should have, her whatever she wants, her choices for this one, including the light switches. And we talked about that yesterday, that in the kitchen there are these can lights. And I said, no, we can have, I think there are over 10 of them. And depending on how you count, there might be 16 or 17. And I said, we can turn them all on at once. We can turn them on, in phases with different switches. And she said, I'd really like them to come on with one switch. And I said, fine, we'll do that. So even something as simple as how to wire the lighting in the kitchen, she made those decisions. Now, we discussed the pros and the cons, but that's what we did. We've got, let's see, Craig in Long Island, New York. Welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
It's a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Welcome.
Hey,
how can we help you?
Good.
Okay, my wife's going for a biopsy on her breast this afternoon, and the doctor wants to put in a metallic marker, and I just want to get Norm Shealy's feeling on this marker. I think it's made of titanium.
Well, I see no problem with putting the metallic marker, as long as you are going to agree that if it is cancer, they will do at least an excision of the mass.
Okay.
I'm not worried about any danger from a temporary metal marker in the mass.
And will that be considered temporary?
Well, yeah, because obviously, presumably, even if it's benign, the only difference between benign and malignant is how much you take out versus, not doing anything else. If there's a little bit of malignancy, the slightest bit they will want to take out, but it'll be a bigger operation than if it was benign.
I appreciate the info, Dr. Shealy.
And
Craig, hold on one second, Craig. Let's make sure we fully understand. Dr. Shealy, are you saying that when they put in this metallic marker, when they are in there, if they find this mass, they are to take it out? Is that what you're saying right then and there?
Well, no. The marker is to wait for the final pathology.
Okay. So
that they can decide how much surgery is needed. If they're just going to take it out, they don't need to leave a metal marker.
Okay. And what about the risks, Dr. Shealy? Are there significant risks of putting this marker in?
Well, there's a slightly greater risk of an infection by leaving something in, but that's pretty darn small. The risk of an infection in something like this is probably far less than 1 in 100.
Okay. Craig, back to you.
I'm satisfied with that answer. You guys are the best.
Well, blessings on you and your wife.
And right back to you, Dr. Shealy. Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Craig, thank you so much.
Thank you, Vincent.
David in Illinois, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
Is this me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I just heard a static in the background. I listen to your show quite a bit, me and my wife do, but now, does the doctor know anything that would be a substitute for lack of thyroid, like Synthroid?
Well, my number 1, 2, and 3 recommendation in hypothyroidism is Armour's thyroid. It's animal thyroid, but it's been around for almost a century, and I much prefer it to Synthroid.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remain the rest of my life as well as it can go, because my body's shutting down.
Right.
So, because what the university doctors did to me when I was a kid, so I had so many surgeries.
David, would you consider holding through this break and staying with us?
Sure.
Okay. We want to make sure that we get your questions answered thoroughly as possible. Okay. David in Illinois is with us. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. I'm Vin Finelli. We'll be right back. Class, Dr. Shealy's with us, and David in Illinois is with us. David, we're talking about the thyroid. Would you share with us, before we continue, what happened to you? You talked about something the doctors did when you were young. What was that all about?
My father worked at a well-known university up north in Illinois, and he would limit me to one meal a day, so it caused my body to attack itself when I was a little kid.
Wow.
So he pulled strings there when Child Family Services were going to take me, and he found out, and he checked me in the hospital where he worked at I was in there for 2 months, and I went in there seeing out of 2 eyes and left seeing out of 1. 70 stitches in my arm, just to do a biopsy to keep me there. So it just went downhill from there. So whenever he had to go to court, he would sign me up for a surgery and do strings. They figured I'd be blind by the time I was 18, the way he was going. But I managed to kind of take off when I was 19, and I saved what little vision I have left in health. So, but if the doctor wishes to have it...
David, all I can say
excuse me, Dr. Shealy.
You're a
Dr. Shealy, can you...
man.
Dr. Shealy, can you take over for about 2 minutes? There's something I have to do. I'll be right back.
Oh, of course, David.
Please continue.
If the doctor...
How old are you now?
I'm 51. I almost died several times because of that.
Well, if you're hypothyroid, in your case especially, I would definitely try to use Armour Thyroid. How much do you weigh?
Okay. I've been losing a lot of weight, but I'm starting to gain again. I was at 18. I was under 90 pounds.
Wow.
5'10". And the thing is, the doctors knew what he was doing. It's in my records. But now I weigh. I've been up to working out before the thyroid went. I was 197, but I was all muscle then. And then after the thyroid kind of hit, and the doctors messed up some more. And all the medicines they put me on, which I got off, everything but 2 medications. I mean, I had about 24 different medicines they had me on, and I'm down to just Synthroid and 1 eye drop a day. So that's it.
Is your temperature normal?
I seem like I'm either cold or I'm hot. So
okay, that suggests your your thyroid's not perfectly balanced. Synthroid does work for some people, but I personally prefer Armour Thyroid. It's a natural thyroid.
Okay.
My mother had her thyroid gland taken out in 1955 because of multiple nodules, and she lived until 2009, and she was on Armour Thyroid all that time.
Yeah. Well, I have a interesting proposition for you, doctor, in case you would want. If you would ever want to look at the history of what they did to me and they knew, I would be glad to sign you a release. So you can look back all you want, and you would not believe what they did to me.
David, what would you like me to do with that?
Just whatever you see in it, write it, put it on the internet, anywhere you want.
Well, I would say I hope you found some way to forgive this evil man.
Actually, no, I didn't, because he said I belonged to him. I finally thought I would be released from him when he finally passed away, but he left all my information to one of his 2 wives that now is using. She even tried to put me on this death certificate. So, so it's never ending.
What a saga! What a saga!
Well, the sad thing of it is I got a witness when he would pull me out of the hospital all the time. He kept me for months out of school, and I had to ride around with him. And I've seen so many crimes committed that it just floors me of how society is.
He was the ultimate psychopath.
David, would you leave your telephone number with our engineer off the air, please? I'd like to call you.
Yeah, sure. You would love to hear what I got to say.
Well, thank you,
sure,
David. Blessings.
Make sure we get it. Make sure we get it. And,
yes, I will.
Brad's our engineer. He will get it for you, so don't hang up. Dr. Norman Shealy and I will be right back. Tell you what that was all about. We heard a loud explosion. It rocked the farmhouse. Our son was on a 100-horsepower tractor a mile away. He called to see if our house had blown up. It was that bad. He was on the tractor. Loud explosion. We're not sure what's going on. Everyone all set? cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Brad is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at GCN. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. I'm Vin Finelli. Dr. Shealy, thanks so much for the last part of hour number 1 taking over. I'll tell you what happened.
Yes.
there was a loud explosion. I literally thought the garage under our house blew up. I literally did. And Mrs. Finelli's was there working, and I thought it was going to be just a terrible situation. Literally went boom. It was like that long. The whole house shook. The floor shook under the studio. And so I raced down the house and outside, and there's Mrs. Finelli. She said, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "I did." And then the phone rang, and our son called. He was on a tractor, and he grabbed an emergency phone that he has, and he called us so he could tell us that he heard this loud explosion. And he heard this. He was in a tractor, 100 horsepower tractor, roaring diesel engine, cab over it, windows closed, and he said the windows shook on the tractor, and he heard it while he was mowing with a 15-foot batwing mower. So he's running heavy equipment, and he felt it in the tractor. So we said, no, we're okay. And then I called on the landline. I called the Farmers Cooperative, and I talked to a gentleman by the name of Canyon there, who I know. And I said, Canyon, did you feel an explosion? He said, yeah. They're over a couple miles away. So they felt it. So this was a pretty significant explosion that we heard. I don't think it's a sonic boom. I think, sonic boom is one thing that just kind of rattles the windows. This thing shook the entire house, and it's a stone house just the stone on the house was 220 tons. So it's a pretty heavy structure, and it literally shook the house. And after the broadcast, I'm going to go around looking to see how many cracks are in the stone as a result of that.
So you don't know what happened
explosion
yet.
Type boom. That's what happened.
You don't know the cause.
Do not know the cause, but I do know that it was probably felt a couple miles away as strong as it was here.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you're okay,
and I know,
and your family's okay.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yes, and I know it's probably not dynamite because I've asked to go buy some dynamite. I went to the Farmers Cooperative and I said, "Y'all have any dynamite?" and the reason is we have some tree stumps.
You going to flood the town again?
Well, farmers used to take dynamite and once they cut these big trees down, they have these huge stumps that of these dead trees. And what do you do with them? They take decades to disintegrate, to go back to nature. And so I thought, well, it's easier to get them out with that than a backhoe, and just put one little stick of dynamite in there, boom, and then go pull it out once it's loosened with the backhoe. But no, they won't sell us dynamite, so I don't have any dynamite, and I don't think anyone else does either, because they stopped selling it years ago. So, but one other short story about the Farmers Cooperative. One day I said, "Y'all have any lime?" And they go, "Yeah." And bags, yeah. What kind? I want hydrated lime. I said, "How much do you need?" I said, "Just a couple bags, 100 pounds." And they looked at me like, and everybody's like whispering, "Finelli wants lime," and they're thinking bodies. You sprinkle that on dead bodies, right? To keep the smell down. And I said that's what I want it for. I want to put it on decaying flesh and rotting flesh to keep the smell down. But I'm thinking cows. Every once in a while a cow will die and either get stuck in the pond or something will happen. Or it'll be attacked by an animal, and I don't want it to smell for months. So if we can't bury it right then and there, or if it's too big to put in the outdoor wood furnace, then we put some lime on it and then bury it. If the ground is frozen, we'll bury it as soon as the ground thaws out. But so the story is that they're absolutely convinced that there are dead bodies over here.
Wow.
My dad told me that they used lime in World War II. He was involved in the liberation of the Philippines, and there were a lot of dead military on both sides, the Japanese as well as the Americans. And he volunteered to help bury some of the dead. And He said, you'll never forget the smell of rotting flesh. And that's where I learned about the lime, and that's what they used back then.
By the way, shifting gears significantly, I would like to let our listeners know that today, as a matter of fact, just after the radio show, we are sending out one of my most important e-newsletters. Are you one of the 2.7%? Only 2.7% of Americans have essential health habits that prevent over 85% of all illnesses. And so we are making an offer to people who wish to send us 10 friends who are interested in joining our newsletter. We'll give them a free copy of Medical Renaissance, the Secret Code, or any one of 19 CD meditation CDs or DVDs, 5 of them. Because we really believe that the number one thing we can do to improve health in this country is get people to adopt the basic health habits. We want 97.3% of people to get healthy.
No question about that, Dr. Shealy. So what do we do? Do we go to normshealy.com?
Send me a note with the names of 10 people that are willing to be signed up to our newsletter and tell me what you want. That is, you can have the movie or the DVDs or any one of my guided imagery things.
Okay, so let me see if I got this right. We contact you at norm at normshealy.com?
Exactly.
Okay, so we'll send an email to norm, N-O-R-M, at normshealy, S-H-E-A-L-Y.com, N-O-R-M at NORMSHEALY.com. And then you want 10 email addresses? Is that what you want?
Exactly. Of friends that you would recommend subscribe to the newsletter.
Okay. There you
I
go,
think
class.
everybody should.
And then as a result, they get what?
Well, the
they
movie.
Have a choice of?
The most important movie, I believe, Medical Renaissance, Secret of the Fountain. It shows you the whole foundation of what holistic medicine is all about. It's 90 minutes long, but we have a whole bunch of. There's a list of all the CDs and DVDs that are available as well.
Okay, that's at normshealy.com. They can look at that, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, class. There you go. And if you'd like it, just go to normshealy.com, and then you'll send an email to norm at normshealy.com. And with 10 email addresses and make your choice. And I guess you're going to need to know how do they get this? Will they get this electronically, or will they get it?
No, they need to send me their mailing address, of course.
Okay.
We will mail it out at no charge, no shipping charge.
Okay. There you go. All right, class. So that's the plan, and please consider doing that. I think it will be worth your while, and I'm sure you'll get the same multiple times per week email newsletter as well, right? Ongoing.
Yeah.
There you go. That sounds great. So 2.7%. Dr. Shealy, can you share with us some of those habits that 2.7% might have?
At the top of the list, in other words, the one that causes more trouble than all other known is overweight. Any weight above your optimal weight, which is a body mass index of maximum of 24, 1 pound, every pound above that increases your risk. When you get to 30 pounds above your ideal weight for your height, you are truly clinically obese. I call it sloppy fat. The risk of someone who has a body mass index of 30 above, which is a weight 40 pounds above your ideal or more, your risk of death is similar to someone who smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
Wow.
And so you can, let's say when you're 15 pounds overweight, it's like one pack of cigarettes a day, 20 pounds, 2 packs of cigarettes, 30 to 40 pounds, whatever. The second one is still smoking. 22% of Americans still smoke. 1 pack a day shortens your life an average of 7 years. 3 packs shortens your life an average of 18 years. The third most important habit is eating a minimum of 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. Vince, I start every every day with 5 or 6 servings of fruits and vegetables in a slush. I want to be sure I've got, my minimum requirement done at the first meal. The average American consumes 2.2 servings. The minimum is 5. Well, if I start the day with 5 or 6... I'm sorry?
Dr. Shealy, I find that hard to believe. I find that hard to believe that the average American gets 2.2.
And I remind people that ketchup and French fries are not a vegetable. They don't count anything.
That's why I find that hard to believe, because I'll bet in that 2.2 included is like a Fiber One bar, with or something like that. And they said, well, you're good to go because you had a Fiber One bar.
No, that doesn't count as a serving. And number 4 is exercise. It doesn't have to be vigorous. Walking, moderate, 30 minutes, 5 days a week. And number 5 is sleeping 7 or 8 hours out of every 24. Every one of these things, if people had these habits, within 25 years, our average life expectancy would go from 79 to 100. And we would cut illness 75%.
Can we talk more about this when we come back, Dr. Shealy?
Of course.
How about our IQ? Would our IQ increase as well? Because I think it's falling.
Because the habits are also associated with that.
Yeah, there you go. And I was not challenging your numbers, Dr. Shealy. I was challenging the way that these statistics might have been compiled, because I don't think 2.2 servings. I just can't imagine the average American. Dr. Shealy's with us, medical doctor. Dr. Shealy, I remember being in elementary school, waiting for the school bus in the morning, and one of our neighbors was a couple of years older than I, and he would smoke, and I thought, why would he be doing that? And he said, well, it only cuts 7 years off your life. It's no big deal. And and I'm thinking...
Yeah, but you know something? The sad part about it is it probably gives you 5 to 10 years of illness as well.
Yep, and I'm sure that once he started smoking, it didn't stop at 1 pack a day. It didn't stop at 2. Probably went to 3, and unbelievable. And so if he's looking at that 18-year shortened life expectancy plus the pure agony of the last, 10 years before that 18 years, we're looking at 28 years, right?
You bet.
So we're looking at, more than a third of a person's life being absolutely horrible.
Well, Vince, in my father's family, 5 of 6 brothers, 5 of 6, died between age 48 and 54. Brother number 6, who didn't smoke, lived to be 80. There's your big difference.
And same thing is true in my family. In the World War II GIs, they were encouraged to smoke by the big tobacco companies. They were given free cigarettes, and once World War II was over, they had the tobacco companies had all these instant addicted customers, and they're just buying cigarettes like crazy. And back then, I guess maybe you could buy cigarettes for 10 cents, 12 cents a pack. I remember when I was in elementary school, you could buy them at a gas station, which was the highest price anywhere, at 25 cents a pack, $1.70 if you wanted to inhale a carton full of that smoke. 17 cents a pack if you bought them by the carton. But and people did, and they were absolutely addicted to it. And then if you look at the rest of the family, and let's say that person doesn't smoke, they get the secondhand smoke. It's everywhere. I bought a used car, an old Mercedes. It's a 1996. It's my favorite car ever, and it's the one I drive. Most of the time, it's a diesel. And the only reason I bought it was because it's really hard to find a good condition old Mercedes without the electronics in it. So that's what this is. But the guy smoked, and he only had it for like a year or two. And I've been fighting to get that tobacco smoke out of it. And it's difficult. I've aired it out. I've used an ionizer. I've put vinegar, and that vinegar works the best. Just put a bowl of vinegar on the floor and close up the windows in the sun. It seems to kill the smoke. It doesn't just mask it; it stops it, but then it comes back, a couple weeks later. But it's everywhere. And so if it's in the fabric of the car, even though I've scrubbed all the seats and the carpet and all that, it's still very difficult to get out. And what about the family members who are inhaling all that smoke from the secondhand smoke within the houses?
About half the risk of those who smoke.
So you have a spouse who smokes, and 3 packs a day, and you've got the 18-year reduction in the life expectancy, plus the pure misery for the 10 years or so before that, and your spouse is going to get half of that sentence, right? Gosh.
Yep.
Plus the expense, that's like burning money. It literally is burning money, going up in smoke.
I'd rather smoke money. The paper.
Oh, geez. So, Dr. Shealy, I'm looking at my notes here. 30 pounds above the ideal weight, but BMI of 24, increases the risk of death. And Dr. Shealy, just go to Springfield, Missouri, go into any supermarket, go into the Chinese factory outlet, and you'll see just about everybody but us overweight, right? Well,
it's now 70% of all Americans who are overweight.
Yeah, 70%. How'd that happen, Dr. Shealy? Is it the cell phone? We just keep looking at our cell phones and don't move? Is it that we watch TV?
Well, it's the cell phones and junk food. Remember, 80% of all the food available for purchase in this country is junk.
I've heard you say that for years and years and years. And class, just look around. If you want to see the proof, just go shopping. Just go see who's pushing those carts, riding around in those carts. Just go look. Go look. And some of the people who are consuming those foods can't push the carts. How'd that happen? By eating those extruded foods. We'll be right back. Dr. Shealy, I just checked the news, and there's a post, a 1 trillion-ton iceberg, 4 times the size of London, has snapped off the West Antarctic ice shelf. And it says that the iceberg was hanging by a thread, just 3 miles of ice held it on, and it's 2,239 square miles, and it broke away. The Larsen Sea ice shelf has now decreased in size about 10%, but it could pose a hazard to maritime traffic. And so when I saw that, this post was as of 6 o'clock this morning, Eastern Daylight Savings Time. And my question was, is it possible that that breaking of that ice shelf was that loud explosion that we heard? And
I knew what was coming.
And I really don't know. So here's the question for our class. Did you hear that loud explosion that we heard here in Missouri? And if you did, I'd love to hear where you are and if you heard it. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Just let our engineer know that you're calling about that, and we'll put you right on the air. Dr. Shealy, we're talking about body mass index. We're talking about living better, living longer, and increasing our IQ. Please tell us how that works, eating well and increasing our IQ, because I could use the points.
There's a study that came out just last week, a big study from Scotland. They tested the IQ of all of the students in school in Scotland back sometime in the 40s, and they looked at life expectancy. And the lower the IQ, the earlier people died. That's not looking at anything except IQ. So it looks as if people with a lower IQ choose more unhealthy habits, among other things. So it's terribly complex, but you can't afford the luxury of ignoring good health habits, whether you're dumb or bright.
Is there a relationship between socioeconomic standing and IQ?
That is true also. The lower socioeconomic status, the higher your early death rate. So, so smoking, obesity, inactivity go along with both low IQ and low socioeconomic background.
And I've noticed there are people whom I've seen in jobs that I would consider high risk who are smokers. Let me give you an example. People in the construction industry, they're out there in the dust. They're grinding metal with metal cut-off saws. They're sawing metal, all kinds of dust in the air. People who work construction that uses lumber, like framers of houses, they're sawing, and there's all kinds of dust in the air. And so to make the dust stick to their lungs even better, they smoke. And I see more and more of that. People who have these really tough jobs, people who should be wearing respirators, instead are not wearing respirators, and they're smoking to make these dust particles stick to their lungs even more. And I ask them, I go, why don't you wear a mask, a respirator, to prevent this stuff from getting into your lungs? They say, I can't breathe if I do that. And I'm thinking, okay, so you won't be able to breathe for sure later, as these conditions worsen inside your lungs. But that's what they do. And I've seen, in my opinion, people who are less financially well off are more likely to smoke than those who are more financially well off. And that's just my opinion. Do you see something similar to that?
I've seen that too. I mean, look, my father and four of his brothers were not lower socioeconomic, but they smoked. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's peer pressure as part of this, or do you think?
Well, in his day, it was. His father died when he was 10. He went to work to help support the family. It was just one of those things. I don't think you could take what happened 100 years ago from what's going on today. We didn't know a lot about smoking back in those days, health-wise.
Yeah. And, I was thinking about some of these advertisements. Wasn't there an advertisement for cigarettes like doctors prefer,
Lucky Strike?
Oh, yeah, that's it. There's a guy. He's got salt and pepper hair, great smile. He's wearing glasses, and it says 20,679 physicians say Luckies are less irritating. So it's like physicians prefer Luckies. I mean, that's what it's kind of saying.
In those days, they were pimps to the tobacco industry instead of the drug industry. Same thing, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so here we have the medical profession, or what appears to be the medical profession, endorsing smoking. And what about smoke up a person's rectum? We'd hear, blowing smoke up a person's rectum. They'd say a little differently, but that was done. It was a procedure.
On the internet, you can find offers to sell you some kind of device that was to blow smoke up the rectum as a therapeutic device.
That's what I'm saying. It was considered actual medicine therapy, right? At one point in time.
Yes. Almost as bad as some of the things going on today.
Dr. Shealy, since we're discussing this, what do you think about coffee enemas as a cancer therapy? Have you investigated that?
I know a lot about it. I don't know a lot of science that proves it. And personally, I just happen to say I'm a surgeon, not a gastroenterologist, so I don't like them.
Okay. How about skin tangs? TANGS, or maybe they're called skin tabs. So these are these little bits of skin that pop up, kind of like a micro earlobe that might pop up, on a person's neck or on the side of the thigh or something like that. Do we know what they are, and can we safely remove them ourselves?
Well, I don't know, but my suspicion is that skin tags are mostly somehow a nutritional deficiency.
A nutritional deficiency?
Yeah, I can't prove that, and I'm going to look it up to be sure, but my suspicion is it's a deficiency of omega-3s and possibly some other things.
Okay. And if a person has one, is there a safe way to remove it? And here's where I'm going with this. I remember many, many, many years ago, probably in the 1960s, probably the early 1960s, my dad went for a checkup, and his physician said, let me just take care of that. And he took a piece of thread, white thread, tied it like a knot around the skin at the base of the skin tang, and cut off the circulation to it. And he said, in a couple of days it'll just fall off. And it did. Is that a safe way of doing it today? Maybe with a...
Oh, yeah. In general, yes. Now, interestingly, skin, I was right about the nutritional, but I wasn't having it quite right as to which fat. People who are overweight are much more likely to have skin tags. And when they're overweight enough to cause type 2 diabetes, they're even more likely to have skin tags.
Okay. And so what do they do? Is there a supplement that you recommend, or is there something we should be eating to prevent them?
I would say start losing weight yesterday.
Okay. Speaking of eating well, Dr. Shealy, this morning, before the broadcast, I made an omelet. And I went out into the garden and I got some Anaheim peppers. I got 2 really large Anaheim peppers, washed them, cut them, diced them, put them in a cast iron skillet. And I took a lot of onion and I put it in there too. I mean, a lot. It was probably 2 parts, or 1 part Anaheim peppers, 1 part onion, and 1 part egg. So it was not a typical omelet. And I can't eat runny eggs. I just can't make myself do it. Is there a reason why we should have one type of cooking one type of an egg over another? Do you feel strongly about any particular way that's the best?
I do not feel strongly about it at all. There is a slight bit of evidence that leaving the yolk runny, so it's not coagulated and solid, is healthier. But I love scrambled eggs. I mean, I like them. I like eggs in almost any form, everything from coddle to soft-boiled and on up. And so I don't think you should let that be your primary decision. I think you should eat eggs unless you're truly allergic to them.
Okay. And what about the egg whites? The yolk of the egg, is that the best part? Is the white the best part? Is there some part that, we shouldn't have it because of cholesterol, or do we just say, no, the whole egg is the way to go? What do we do?
I personally, I don't eat out except when I travel. And so, I mean, I rarely eat out. I just choose the best I can when I travel, and I don't worry about it.
No, but when you eat eggs, do you eat the entire egg, or do you say, I'm not going to have the yolk, or I'm not going to have the white, or do you have the whole thing?
Oh, always the whole thing. I think you're missing at least 50% of the nutrition if you skip either one. The white is, of course, the best protein in the world, and the yolk is loaded with all kinds of other goodies.
Okay. I was reading a very interesting article about young people playing outdoors. And I'm 100% convinced that you and I when we were in elementary school, we had recess outside. And our parents told us after school, hey, go get some sunshine, get some vitamin D, and go play outside. You need to do that. And we did. Well, what they're saying now is that young children are becoming more nearsighted. They're becoming more nearsighted, and they have lower levels of vitamin D, and they have a higher body mass index because they're spending less time outside, more time inside, more time without natural light, more time with artificial light. And it's affecting their eye development. Norm Shealy's with us, normshealy.com, normshealy.com, and Dr. Shealy had a great offer. So if you're interested in receiving the videos that he's talking about, just go to normshealy.com, send Norm an email with 10 of your closest email friends' addresses, and he will, and your physical address, and he'll send you the videos. Dr. Shealy, playing outside as young people helped us get vitamin D and helped us develop better. And they're saying now that young children are not getting enough time outside. They are not getting enough of the vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, and they're becoming more nearsighted. I guess that would tie into the use of the closely held in their hands. Yeah, dumb phones. Right.
The dumb phone is bad in every conceivable way. Not only the electromagnetic contamination or damage to your brain, but the focus of attention, the lack of sociability, and missing being outside. All of those are part of a very, very negative aspect. I do not believe we were meant to spend any amount of time on a regular basis throughout the day talking on the phone.
Yeah, very, very good point. And you and I are in perfect agreement. Vitamin D2, vitamin D3, and the sunshine itself. Are there differences in the vitamin Ds?
Well, yeah, D2 is junk, prescription pharmacomafia drug. D3 is the natural stuff that you produce in the sun.
Okay, so vitamin D3 is liquid sunshine.
That's correct. And
okay.
vitamin D2 is just an excuse for pharmacomafia intervention. Under no circumstances is there any benefit from it.
Okay. Lithium orotate. You had mentioned that as a memory booster. What is your recommended dosage, and who should be taking it? And it is not
prescription.
Well,
I think most people from age 5 on, 5 milligrams, let's say, at age 5, 10 milligrams at age 10, 15 milligrams at age 15, and somewhere between 15 and 20 milligrams as an adult for 100% of people would be good.
Okay, and what would that do for us, Dr. Shealy?
Well, first of all, it would decrease stress, the physiological biochemical reaction to stress. Secondly, it protects your brain. Third, it helps to prevent depression and anxiety. Not bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And are there any contraindications, any complications?
Not with lithium orotate. You've got to have.
Okay.
You can't live without some lithium.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And MSM. What are your thoughts about MSM?
Well, now that's a really interesting one. As you may know, I combine it with vitamin C in my youth formula because although MSM has many benefits physiologically and vitamin C the same, when you put the two together, they have all of their usual benefits, plus they help raise your DHEA naturally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I take your youth formula every day. As a matter of fact, Dr. Shealy, tell me if I'm doing this wrong. I'm taking 3 of them a day. I spread them out, throughout the day. Am I okay with three?
Well, I take 4, so I'm sure you're okay taking 3.
Okay, we're talking about Dr. Shealy's youth formula. And how do you get it? You can just buy it right on the internet at normshealy.com. Dr. Shealy, there's a post that I found fascinating, and it's at dailymail.co.uk. It says, bad news for those who hate cleaning. Dusty homes can make you obese by spurring the growth of fat cells. And it says, just a minuscule amount of dust can trigger bulging waistline. And it says that dust is full of gender-bending chemicals that are responsible for weight gain. And this, according to the post, causes fat cells to accumulate in the body. So what they're saying is bisphenol A, these microfibers, we're inhaling them, they're getting in our lungs, they're getting in our digestive systems, and they're causing us to get fatter as well. Just the dust around our house. Any quick thoughts?
Wow.
Yeah.
Here it says baby gender dust, chalk dust even. All kinds of things about dust changing your biochemistry and your endocrinology.
Well, maybe we can talk about this a little bit more next Wednesday.
Great.
And I have an ionizer. Yeah, I've got an ionizer to make this stuff fall down so it can get vacuumed up quickly. Dr. Shealy, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, thank you.
Norm Shealy.